So digital games versus physical games. This is a hot topic that has been around for a while now, and in today's video I want to share my impressions about this whole idea. So this topic has been around especially lately because there are some things that have been going around, especially with the digital content. I know some of you prefer to have their physical collection because it's also nice to put them on a shelf somewhere and you can look at it. Others prefer digitally because it's easier and then you have all your collection in one place. And I agree with both actually. What I don't understand, and it's similar to the console war, why people are complaining about the other group of people. So yeah, I'm not going to that one. But straight away, I want to assure you that I'm a big fan of both. And I actually do both for games in a different category. First of all, the physical games and why I like collecting those ones. Well, I usually tend to collect those games that I really love, and especially I'm eager to collect full collection of the same city. As you have seen in my previous videos, I've done one for Assassin's Creed, also for God of War. I even have Uncharted and a couple of other full collections. And I'm not only talking about PS4 only games from that collection or PS5 or whatever. No, I'm talking about the full collection from PS3, PS4, PS5, also PS Vita, PSP and all that. And this kind of things is something that I really enjoy doing. I haven't done that in the past and now I am struggling to get to that collection now. And it's a process that I really enjoy, especially if it's for a game that I really love. First of all, Assassin's Creed, I'm a big fan of that series. I know that is not doing that great now, especially with the newer titles, but collecting the Assassin's Creed series for me was something amazing. I did have a couple of games before, but then I started to go digitally. But once I realized that this is the series that I really love, I decided to go ahead and buy all those older titles. And even though there are quite a lot of games in this series, the older ones, because it isn't something that people necessarily collect, I found them from really cheap. I think the cheapest one was $2 or something like that. So I went ahead and bought all of them. I looked at flea markets, online stores, and a bunch of different other stores, and it was a fun process. So this kind of things is something that I really like, not necessarily getting the end result, the full collection to store it somewhere, but also the process of all that. But now that I got into this physical collection part, I also tend to buy the newer titles that I love. For example, let's take Spider-Man. We had the Insomniac Spider-Man, then we had Miles Morales, now Spider-Man 2, and I knew that that game is something that I love, and I wanted to have the physical full collection for that one. And actually for Spider-Man, it's something that a lot more games tend to do this more recently. We have the collector edition, for example, and I love how the Spider-Man figurine with Venom and the two Spider-Man look like. And I love Steelcases again, and you had that one in the collector edition, but there wasn't any physical game. And that part I don't really agree with. If it is a collector's edition, then I need to have that physical disc as well. I understand for some reasons why they do that. For example, we have PS5 digital only version, so you don't have the physical drive and you couldn't really play the games from the collector's edition. But I think that is only a small part of people that would be bothered about getting the disc only. So that part I don't agree. I really hope that collector's edition don't go on this route where you have only the digital game. And unfortunately, a lot of them recently are doing that. We have Spider-Man 2, we have God of War Ragnarok who done the same, and a couple of others. So it seems that now we're going on this route, which I'm not really a big fan. If it's a physical collector's edition, then please give us also the disc. This is my opinion. I know that most of you will agree with me, and I really hope that they will get back to the physical collection. Even though it seems that we are going more and more to a digital only future, which to be honest, I'm really not a fan of. I know that it costs more from the producer to create those discs, but in the end, it's something that the fans want. So I really hope that they will not remove this, or at least not anytime soon. And we see the big console producers like Sony and Microsoft, where they have the dedicated consoles without any disc drive. And again, that could be a sign we're going to digital only in the future. But we also have something like the PS5 Slim, where you can buy separately the Blu-ray drive. And I'm a really big fan of that idea, because if you want to go digitally, then go ahead. But if you decide down the road that you still want to get the physical drive, then you can buy that separately and put it in your console. So I think that should be the future. We should have both versions, but who knows? Hopefully we'll not see that dying anytime soon. So as I said, I usually tend to collect the games that I'm really big fan of. Most recently I started going after some older titles, and as you can see now I have not a really big collection, but only those type of games that I really like. And now I also have a small PS3 collection, a PSP and PS Vita. I do have also a couple of Xbox games, but usually I don't go for the disc drive of that console, and it really depends a lot on the game and on the console. For example, as I said, for Xbox, I don't really collect any physical discs, and for the Nintendo Switch, I only have just a couple of games, and these are really the ones that I really loved. I did have multiple ones on the Nintendo Switch, but then I decided to sell. So I only kept the ones that I'm really big fan of, and I know I will not sell them anytime soon because these will remain part of my collection. So these are the true games that I really enjoyed. So as you can see, I'm going different routes based on the console that I collect for, and the main one for me is the PlayStation. This is the one that I play the most and for which I want to have this kind of collection. And I have to admit, I really like storing a couple of my games, and as you can see right under my PS5 I have a bunch of different ones, but these are only some of them, the ones that I really like, and maybe a couple of ones that I'm currently playing, like Jedi Survivor. But there are also some of these steel cases that I have over here, and these are just a few that I have in my collection. It's something that I really enjoy, getting some steel case for these kind of games, even though they are more expensive. Depends on the game. I either buy them day one just to make sure that I don't miss on them, or I look for them after online, maybe after the price drops a bit. But it can be a risky game. Most of the time, these go a lot higher after a while. So it depends on you on what you want to do. And for example, I have Spider-Man 1 over here, and I didn't get the collector's edition for Spider-Man 2 just because I didn't get the disc, but because I have the first steel case, I also want to go ahead for the second one. This was the special edition, I believe it was called, for Spider-Man. It wasn't the collector's edition because I didn't want to pay that much for the figurine. And for the second game, we didn't get this kind of edition, only the collector's one. So if you want to get the steel case for Spider-Man 2, then you have to go for that one. Probably I'll still do that, but I need to decide fast before the prices go way up. Besides this kind of collections, I have like the ones for Horizon series. As you can see, I have the 2 special edition with art book and also a dedicated sleeve, which is something that I like having here sitting right under my PS5. So these are just some personal things that I enjoy doing. So if you're not that type of guy, then I understand. But for those of us who still like collecting, and again, I'm really not a big collector, I only collect a couple of them, the ones that I truly love. But for those of us, please don't remove the physical discs. We still want to have those ones in the collection. Now, as I said, I also enjoy collecting digital content. Actually, I'm a really big fan of them because it has a lot of advantages, especially having the games right over there. You can simply download them. Most of the time, it's actually the same downloading a game from the internet or copying it from the disc. Actually, sometimes it's slower copying the game from the disc than directly download it from the internet. And nowadays, most of the games don't even play well, or you cannot really enjoy them without downloading something on top of the content that you already have on the disc either way, or even the Nintendo approach where you don't even get the game on the cartridge anymore. So yeah, that's another thing. So from that point of view, most of the time it doesn't really matter. Having to download the game from the internet or copying it and downloading extra content from the disc, it's almost the same. So you already have the games right over there. If you want to pre-order a game, you can preload it before the launch day, and at 12 o'clock you can already start playing that game, so you don't have to go into the store or wait for that to be in stock or whatever. So that's a really big advantage. And for some of my games, I actually prefer the digital approach. I usually don't really play multiple games in the same time. Well, I do have exceptions for that, but there are a few games that I enjoy playing from time to time, or maybe quick sessions like Rocket League, FIFA, well, FC24 nowadays, or even Helldivers 2, which is a really big game that currently is popular. For those kind of games, when you want to have a couple of quick sessions with your friends, or not necessarily, for those type, I really prefer the digital approach, because if I had to switch between discs every time, then that could be a struggle. I don't really like doing that. And for example, currently I'm mostly playing Jedi Survivor. I didn't play it when it launched, but I do have the disc for that one. But I still go and play Helldivers 2 with friends from time to time, and I don't really want to switch between the two games every time I'm doing this. So that's actually a really nice approach. Having the digital copy of that game, it's really nice. So there you go, a really big advantage of the digital content. And if we go also into the discussion of this whole subscription, like the PS Plus for Sony or the Game Pass, then digital, it's actually pretty good. If you want to pay a subscription and you get a bunch of different games, then go ahead and do that. It's basically cheaper, especially if you get the games that you would normally pay for. So the advantage is pretty big from that point of view, and especially if you get free games from time to time, then again, another big advantage. Of course, there are also big advantages for the physical copies. Let's take, for example, the price. Even though sometimes you can see the game for a discount online, the stores, whenever they see this, at least here in Romania, most of the times, they will match the price or even go lower for the physical content. So from that point of view, it's really great. And actually, I've done that in the past. I paid for a game that I wanted to play. I just found it in the store, and I like the idea of going into a store, seeing the physical game, and decide to buy it right there on the spot. So that is an experience that I really like. And afterwards, if it's not a game that I truly love, like the ones I mentioned before, then I can simply sell it, so I get a lot of my money back. Or another thing that I usually do with friends, it's of course borrowing the games between us. So whenever we have a physical copy, then we tend to do this. So there you go, another big advantage. But as I said, both of them have a lot of advantages, but also disadvantages. And the most important one, and probably you saw this coming, it's the availability of that game. Digital content, if you read the footprint, the small notice in the games, you'll notice that basically you don't really own the game. Well, you can argue that it's the same for the physical copy, but once you have that copy in your hand, you can do whatever you want with it. And there you go, what I'm doing now with the PS3. I have this collection. I can always boot up my PS3 and play those games without requiring any internet or whatever. With digital, I am a bit scared about what will happen in the future. You already see last year when Sony wanted to kill the PS3 and PS Vita services, but then fans weren't happy and they decided not to do it anymore. But there is still an issue that they will do it in a couple of years. I know that you can still re-download all that content from the internet, even though the service will be shut down, but consider how much longer that would be the case. Maybe in 5 or let's say 10 years, Sony will say, okay, we don't really care about the PS3 anymore, people don't care about it, and they will simply kill off the service altogether. And your digital content that you paid for, it may no longer be available, so you're simply without those games. I know this is a really big discussion over here. Most of you may not really consider those older titles. You don't really care for them anymore. You play them in the past and that's fine. But I'm also a bit worried about what would happen with all these older titles. We already see the retro games, especially the ones from Nintendo nowadays, where they are not really available anymore. And even though more companies are trying to bring those back through emulation, Nintendo is always pushing back. So most of their titles, if you don't have them on their online subscription, then you will not be able to play them except if you own the physical cartridge. And I am worried that will happen also with the other consoles as well in the future, PS3 for example. So I am worried about what will happen, but we'll have to see. The future is not set in stone quite yet, but hopefully these companies realize that fans still want physical copies. If you want to go with digital, then that's perfectly fine. I also do that as well. But I really hope that in a couple of years, those titles will still be in my library. They will not go away. And if I still want to boot my PS5, I don't know, maybe in 10-15 years, I hope that I will still be able to enjoy those titles without worrying that they went away when they closed those services. So there you have it. Some of you have been asking which is the method I prefer. The answer is not that direct. I actually do both depending on the games, but I would like to hear from you. What do you guys think? And what kind of collections do you have? Do you go all digital, all physical, or it's something in between? If that's the case, then why are you doing this, or for which type of games you are doing this? I would like to hear from you down in the comments. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this video. This is Silvi from the Tech Unravel, and I'll catch you in the next episode.